Webnets. Ben here, and I want to talk to you guys about intermittent fasting and also the idea of eating once a day as opposed to eating multiple meals a day. I've brought up the idea of intermittent fasting, and I know a lot of people still don't really understand it, but some people seem to think that it's unhealthy to not eat 3 meals a day or more. More recent science has told us that if you continuously eat, you keep your metabolism up and you're going to lose weight. Well, there's never been any research, any evidence to prove this or even to show in any way that it can produce any results. It basically was just an intuitive idea that sounded good that was really perpetuated. But research is actually showing now that the opposite is true. That eating one meal a day is very healthy, that fasting periodically is very healthy, and that eating, say, not necessarily one meal a day, but eating within a certain window, which is intermittent fasting, has some huge health benefits. Let me get back to intermittent fasting specifically. What is it? Well, intermittent fasting is where you fast for a certain period of the day or a certain period of time, then you eat within a small window, and then you return to fasting. So you intermittently repeat the cycle. There are a couple ways of approaching it. The most popular is a 16-8 split. So for 16 hours you don't eat, for 8 hours you do eat. Another way of doing it is fast, eat. That means fast 48 hours and then eat within a certain period of time on the third day. So first day's fast, second day's fast, third day you eat. Typically that's it's also within an 8-hour window. But and then you repeat it. What I do is I like actually a modification of the 16-8 split, which is a 20-hour and 4-hour split. So from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. is typically when I try to eat, and you know you want to leave about 3 hours after you eat, or between eating and going to bed. But for me, it's the 4 hours of eating, and then again, obviously, for 20 hours are left where I'm not eating. Within the fasting period, you can drink coffee, black coffee, or unsweetened tea, or drinks like this where you don't have any calorie intake. The whole idea, the point is not to give your digestive tract anything to process, actually. It has to process coffee, but not any calories, let me put it that way. So why in the world would you do that? Well, there's so many benefits, like I said. But let's go back to how your body processes what you eat. So your body gets energy from a couple different sources. It's easy, the low hanging fruit is glycogen and sugar that's in your blood sugar. So whenever you eat, particularly when you eat carby foods or starchy foods, you're going to have, and even if you ate keto, you're going to have an influx of glycogen, and your blood sugar is going to go up. So your body will take the energy, it'll produce energy from those sources of energy. Now, if you eat, it takes 6 to 8 hours for your body to typically deplete your glycogen and blood sugar levels. After 6 to 8 hours, then you go into fat burning mode. I guess it would be typically considered ketosis. And some people think that you go into starvation mode. You don't actually go into starvation mode. You don't start, your body doesn't start breaking down your muscles until after 72 hours of no calories. 72 to 96 hours, I believe it is. So between, your 6 hours and your 72 hours, you're safe to not eat anything, and your body is not going to start breaking itself down. What your body will do, because there's no more glycogen, or sugar in your blood or in your liver is it will go to your fat stores and begin to get energy from your fat. So whenever we consume food, when we eat food, if you eat more calories than you're going to burn, where does it go? Well, your liver tries to process the sugar, and it'll store some of the glycogen. But particularly when you eat a whole lot of really sugary stuff, like for example, when you drink soda, that is way too much refined sugar for your liver to process. So immediately being overwhelmed, and it maxes out your insulin levels. Being overwhelmed, it produces fat from the sugar that you just consume because it can't process it and turn it into glycogen or store it. So the typical American in the typical diet is actually the body's creating fat and not burning it up. You're not burning up the fat because you're constantly replenishing your body with glycogen. And that's where it's getting the energy from. So the insulin helps to process your food, turns it into glycogen, and it actually protects your fat from being burned. So as long as your insulin levels are up, you're not going to burn any fat. And it's a funny thing too, because when your insulin levels are up, like I said, it processes your food, and once it processes everything, your insulin levels still stay elevated for a while, and then so your body says, okay, I've got no more food to process, I better get more food. So the funny thing is that the insulin not only processes your food, but it actually causes you to crave particularly starchy and sugary foods. Now, I heard about this a while back, and I was a little skeptical, but what I heard was that if you eat something very carby late at night, if you stuff yourself late at night and go to sleep like that, you'll end up being really hungry in the morning, which sounded counterintuitive, but then I found it to be true in my experience. When I would stuff myself late at night, which I typically used to do a whole lot, if I would just eat a whole bunch late at night, in the morning I felt like I had to eat my left arm to survive. I was so hungry. But at times when I wouldn't eat so much and I wouldn't eat starchy foods, I wasn't hungry in the mornings, typically. So anyway, so your insulin levels, you want them to come down. But if we eat every 6 to 8 hours, you keep them up. And those insulin levels will also remind you to eat every 6 to 8 hours. So you got to push past that. So this is where intermittent fasting begins to benefit you. Let me go to where it came from. So in 2012, Duke Medical Center study was looking into animals with cancer. And they were looking at different things. And one of the things they tried doing is reducing the calorie intake of animals that had cancer. And they found that animals that had reduced calorie intake and actually didn't eat for a few days, they would reduce calorie intake, and sometimes they would have these animals fast. They found that these animals actually had a life expectancy of 30% more than the animals that had the typical eating plans where they would eat frequently and eat as much as they wanted. So they found that to be huge and looked into it further. And what they also found is that intermittent fasting was even more beneficial than reduced calorie diet, or pretty much a fasting type of thing, where they went several days without eating at a time. Where you do the intermittent fasting, which is small fasting windows, is actually more beneficial. So, what does it do to your body? Well, like I said, it reduces your insulin levels, which actually reduces your insulin sensitivity, reduces your blood sugar levels, which in turn results in the reduction of cholesterol levels, triglyceride levels. It actually improves blood pressure. Intermittent fasting improves your heart rate. It has a whole slew of health benefits. It reduces your hunger. Um, you don't, when you are hungry, you're not, don't want to eat a small child. Reducing glycogen actually helps your liver. Um, and obviously, whenever you intermittent fast, you've gone more than 6 to 8 hours, you go into a fat burning state. You start reducing your fat, which has in of itself a ton of benefits. You actually have a higher energy level when you start burning fat for energy. Your brain actually functions more effectively in ketosis and intermittent fasting. You reduce inflammation. It reduces the risks according to the International Journal of Obesity. It reduces the metabolic disease markers such as high blood pressure, diabetes. It reduces the risk of heart disease, again, cholesterol, triglycerides, a whole slew of other things that I'm not going to go into. It reduces, intermittent fasting reduces oxidative stress, which is basically free radicals in your body. And these free radicals, obviously, you don't want these free radicals in your body destroying your cells. So intermittent fasting helps reduce the free radicals. In turn, not in turn, but also intermittent fasting increases your level of human growth hormone, GHG, which is considered an anti-aging hormone. Human growth hormone also improves your muscle mass. So, the thought was, well, if you don't eat 3 meals a day, if you don't eat constantly, your metabolism will drop, which is opposite of true, and start to lose muscle. Where in fact, when you don't eat, your glycogen levels go up. Your glycogen levels go down, and your HGH levels are inversely related, so they go up, which actually helps you build muscle, recover from workouts, helps you retain muscle. HGH increases metabolism, and in men, HGH also boosts testosterone levels, which we know is a big thing. So, intermittent fasting is going to improve your levels or increase your levels of HGH, which does all those things. Let's see, what else? Man. Like I said, it improves brain function. It boosts mitochondrial energy efficiency. Basically, it makes your body run more efficiently. And autophagy, one of my favorites. So, autophagy, what is autophagy? Think of it as survival of the fittest. Whenever you go into a period of fat burning, when you don't have the high glycogen levels, your body starts to make itself more efficient by having the stronger cells actually eat the weaker cells. So you have a weak cell that's dying, you have cell fragments that are left in your body. Those can cause problems. Those can become free radicals. Those can lead to disease, sickness. But guess what? When you go into autophagy, your strong cells actually consume those free radicals. They consume the weaker cells. And what are you left with? Of course, the stronger, healthier cells, and you got rid of the junk in your body. So autophagy is awesome. Well, autophagy goes into overdrive. There's always a little bit of autophagy going on, but it goes into overdrive when you go into a fasting state. So, the best thing to do would be to do a 2 or 3 day water fast. But and it's actually now recommended to do that 2 or 3 times a year. But if you don't want to go do that, you still improve your autophagy by doing intermittent fasting. And it's a whole lot easier than 2 or 3 days. Now, I had tried intermittent fasting myself for quite a while, a few weeks. I guess it's not quite a while, but a while. And I might have gotten a day or two here and there. Just didn't have the willpower to do it. And at age 44, it just seemed so much harder. I just didn't have the physical self-discipline to not eat until that window. I mean, oh man, breakfast became something that I just couldn't live without. But finally, I was able to get on track, and I'm able to stay on track and able to do so well at intermittent fasting with Slim Roast Optimum. It suppresses your appetite, it increases your energy, it boosts your mood. It actually in itself helps with your insulin levels, which then also help with your cravings. Like I said before, when your insulin levels are high and you run out of food to process, your insulin, your body says, hey, I need more food to process. I need some sugary foods. So when your insulin levels are high, you're actually craving sugary stuff. Well, even before you get to that point where you can reduce your insulin levels by fasting, if you drink the Slim Roast Optimum, the second ingredient in there, 2-amino-5-methylheptane, is actually derived from a walnut root, and I can't remember the homeopathic name for it is Jugon something. Anyway, it naturally reduces and regulates your insulin levels so that it's so much easier to go from your coffee in the morning to your evening breakfast, your evening, like for me, a 4 o'clock breakfast, or my first meal of the day or first snack of the day. So much easier to do with a Slim Roast Optimum. I mean, I couldn't do it before. Now it's been, like I said, or I guess I didn't say in this video, it's been about 9 weeks, and there's been about 3 instances where I didn't make it to my 4 o'clock eating window. So I love this intermittent fasting. It is so easy. I don't have to think about food. If I were on keto or Atkins or something else, I'd have to worry about, okay, what can I eat that's, if I'm going to go out to eat, I got so limited choices. You got to think, you got to plan, you got to shop, you got to, oh, can't do that, oh, can't do that. I'd be thinking about it all the time. And we did a little keto for a little while, and it was just, oh, man, such a pain. But with intermittent fasting, the benefits are just as good, if not better. And I have to think, the only thing I have to think is in the morning, I get to have my Slim Roast Optimum coffee. And, sometimes I'm pretty hungry by 4 o'clock. So sometimes I can say, okay, I got to wait. But it's so simple. There's nothing to think about. Other than that, it's so simple. So my advice, give it a try. Intermittent fasting, it's a great thing. Do it with Slim Roast Optimum. Makes it a whole lot easier and more enjoyable. Anyway, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up. Message me on Facebook, or text me or whatever, and I will talk to you guys later. All right, bye-bye.